Hey guys, this is Jennifer with the Shooter's Mindset, and we are live with episode 408. We've got our co-hosts here this week. Corey, how's it going?
Really good, Jennifer.
Wait, how many matches did you shoot last weekend?
Last weekend, 1. Next weekend, 3.
Slacking. Because the week
I
before, I had a good weekend. I shot 3 matches.
You want to know the round count?
Yeah, what was the round count?
2,000 rounds.
Oh, that's like 10 matches.
Yeah.
Wait, what match was that?
We did a Wednesday night match and practice afterwards. Then I did Thursday, Friday practice.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Good times. And our other co-host tonight, we have Greg Cannon. How's it going?
Pretty good. Just getting ready for my 2-match weekend. Noble try here.
You're trying to be Corey.
Yeah. How many matches are you shooting this weekend, Jennifer?
Depends on how many birds are still trying to nest on my porch. I'm in the country now. Although my husband would frown upon me shooting into the porch, so maybe not, but anyway. And our guest of the hour, not a stranger to the show at all. He's been on a few times before. Got Nick Laufenberg with us here, but he's not here by the way he's been here other times. Other times he's been here, repping his work and his work he does with Vortex, which is great supporters of the sport. And usually we're talking about Vortex, but tonight we're going to talk about something a little bit different because Mr. Nick has stretched out and become an author. So I think all 3 of us saw the post go up, and I picked up my phone to text them and be like, someone call Nick. And Greg was like, our show for this week next week is going to be Nick. And, we all 3 were like, yes, we have to do this. So we were super excited. So how's it going, Nick?
Very good. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Of course. You're a friend of the show. We always like having you on. So for anybody that is unfamiliar with you, before we get into the book, tell us a little about yourself, how you got into the industry, how you got into shooting, what you like to shoot, that kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. So I've just like most people that are in this industry, started off life as a kid who loved the outdoors, always enjoyed shooting, and just allowed that to progress. Worked a series of jobs that had nothing to do with this, but there was a job opening at a job near me, which happened to be Vortex Optics. And my brother-in-law was currently looking for work at the time himself. And he saw the job posting and he contacted me. He's like, Nick, you'd be dumb not to apply for this job. It's perfect for you. So I did. And they must have been at the time looking for somebody that had a lot of long range shooting knowledge. And I got hired pretty quickly. Spent some time in our technical support team, which was awesome. Got a ton of experience there. Migrated over into a MIL-LE sales department, started working from there into more of a specialized role for precision rifle sponsorship, matches, events, all that stuff, doing a little bit of training. And then now I still do that part, but now I'm also on the dealer training team.
That's awesome. You wear a lot of hats. So how long have you been with Vortex?
It will be 7 years this coming December.
Awesome.
Yep, so 6.5, I guess.
That's good. I feel like you're the face of Vortex for long range shooters because you're the one that's out there. If you say, I guarantee you, if you ask anybody in PRS or NRL, Vortex, say a name. They're going to say Nick, because
if I'm the face of Vortex, we're in trouble.
But you're always there and always supportive and helpful. And I just think you're always out there answering questions. I know you get hounded at matches. People, what do I do about this? Or, you go on podcasts and people say, hey, I dropped my scope. What do I do? So I feel like you're always very people oriented and very helpful. So
I appreciate that.
So you have gotten kind of creative. We'll talk about the book in a minute, but you also have Nick's Creative Lab, which is always
Yeah,
look at. So tell us a little bit about that and how that started.
yeah. That I mean, that's more or less just when I graduated high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So, like anybody who had no idea what they wanted to do, like let's go to college, I guess. And I ended up opting to go to a technical college that wasn't too far from where I grew up. Went to school for management and got done with that. Had a degree in management, and I was like, I still don't know what the hell I want to do. So I went back and I did a degree in graphic and web design. And just because I've always kind of been artistic, I guess I always loved, pretty much all that stuff. And we had a course on photography, and I really enjoyed that. And I did a little bit of freelance photography, just paid a couple of bills with some whatever stuff, but I always loved it. And I think when I took my job at Vortex, I became so busy that I just kind of stopped doing it, and I missed it a lot. So I decided to start back up. And so I got the old camera back out, and the 11-year-old camera wasn't cutting it. So I got myself a new camera, and I've been enjoying it a lot. So I've been doing a little bit of videography, a little bit of photography, doing some stuff for some local businesses, and mostly doing wildlife and landscape photography because that's kind of where my passion is outside of the shooting sports, of course.
For the camera nerds, what's the 11-year-old and what's the new hotness?
So the 11-year-old is a Nikon D3200, and the new one is a Canon R7. So
Ooh.
I really wanted an R5. I wanted the full frame sensor for a little bit better light transmission, but the difference really was it's an R5 with an APS-C sensor. So if you don't know what that means, it means that the sensor itself is a little bit smaller. So not quite as good for light, but it was good enough. And it was about $2,000 less. So since I was getting back into it, I was like, yeah, the R7 will get the job done.
Yeah, still a very nice camera.
It's awesome. It's a lot better camera than I am as far as skills. So
Yeah.
Hey, so shooting cameras is like shooting sports, where the actual equipment is better than the shooter.
in a lot of ways, yeah.
Yeah.
The camera will outperform me for sure.
Just like the gun will outperform.
Just
Okay.
yeah, just like my rifles are better than I am.
My son's calling me, sorry. So what inspired you to write a book? Tell us a little bit about it, what it is, and
Yeah.
what inspired it.
Well, like my creative side in general, I loving photography and drawing and art and all that. I also have always enjoyed writing, and something that's been on my bucket list for a long time has been to publish a book. And I've started writing this one many times and always kind of deleted it and started over and then deleted it and started over. And about a year ago, I started writing it, and instead of deleting it, I just set it aside, and one day decided to pick it back up. And then about 6 months ago, it became a little bit more serious, like, hey, Nick, you probably need to get this thing done. So I pushed my way through it, spent a lot of time, probably man, I don't know. It's basically like working two full-time jobs between my job at Vortex and then finishing this. So I got it done though, and it was more or less kind of one of those things where I chose to make a book on precision shooting because it is a passion of mine. It is something that I can speak on pretty well, and I figured if I'm going to write a book on something, it might as well be something that I don't have to do a lot of research on. I can just sit down and go, and that's kind of where I was with this.
So when you did the final, like everything's accepted, it's in print, was it more relief or more excitement, or is it a little bit of trepidation, like uh-oh?
You can ask my wife, but for the last about 3 months, I had constant heart palpitations for the last 3 months before hitting publish. And the moment I hit publish, they went away.
Oh, good, good.
So it was good
Sleeping
having them
better.
gone. Yeah, oh, way better.
So what's the target demographic? Are you looking for the brand new shooter, kind of a mid-pack PRS guy? Are you looking for the pro level guy? Who's it intended for?
My intention for this was to really cast a wide net. And I shot for the way I look at any type of precision shooting application is that it doesn't matter if I'm teaching a class to law enforcement snipers or to completely new civilian shooters or somebody who just doesn't care about shooting, or maybe for some reason a pro asked me a question which I have no right to answer for considering some of the talent that's out there. But I feel like no matter what application you're in, the core knowledge and the foundation is the same. You know, with changing some basic grammar while teaching, you can be teaching a sniper, you can be teaching somebody who wants to be a very proficient hunter. And it really comes down to just those foundational skill sets and knowledge bases that are important.
Okay, so you're saying the fundamentals always apply.
For me, I did write a chapter on the fundamentals of marksmanship, and I know that's actually been, I believe it's even been taken out of military curriculum at this point. Somebody told me that, and I think that they started going to more of it. It's called a shot process at this point, and that is, I understand why that is, and it's because if you look at marksmanship and calling them fundamentals, if you, let's say, you know, you have position, aim, breathe, trigger, right? If I get into a bad position and execute all the other properly, it doesn't mean that I can't hit the target. So just because you don't get all your fundamentals right doesn't make them, it doesn't guarantee a lack of success. So that makes the fundamentals essentially not fundamental. To me, I don't think that's a good enough reason to not teach it. I think every time I'm teaching a class and I have people having a rough time hitting the target, following through with their shots, I can always revert them back to, all right, you know, how was your position? Let's go back and look at that. Or I can, well, I'm seeing you immediately pull your head off the stock when you pull the trigger, or you're taking your finger off the trigger like you're shooting a machine gun. If you continue pressing that trigger to the rear in a bolt action, it's not going to continue to fire. I mean, so being able to follow through with your shots. Yeah, right. So there are some things that I mean, I think it's all semantics, really. It's, you can call it a shot process, you can call it fundamentals. It's the same stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of books out there about shooting and about, you know, how to do this, how to do that. What sets this book apart?
Well, it's kind of a weird thing, and I actually do talk about in the book a little bit. Kind of, I stopped writing this book several times because I don't know if it's a lack of confidence in myself or what it is, but I always kind of reverted back to, people are gonna think, well, what gives you the right to tell me about shooting? You know, you're not a top level competitor. If you look at my standings over the year, the highest I've ever placed in a national match was 4th place, which that means I didn't even walk away with a bronze trophy. You know what I mean? So I feel like over the years, I've kind of felt like maybe I'm not the person that should be writing this. And then I've had some people also tell me, like, Nick, what are you talking about? You've been doing this for a long time. You obviously know what you're talking about. You're eloquent with your words. You're a good writer. You should write it. So I did. And Jen, what was your question? I think I got off on a tangent. Sorry.
So just what sets this book apart from any of the books about shooting?
So when I started writing this, one of my thoughts was, okay, how do you go about writing? Do you do kind of the standard of, you know, write a table of contents with a glossary, and then you have it so somebody can go through their glossary, find the topic, and then turn to that page, and now I'm going to read about that topic? And then I kind of started thinking, well, growing up myself, I always had a hard time comprehending things in school. I don't know if I have some type of undiagnosed problem, but anytime I was in a classroom, somebody tried to teach me something and it would go in one ear and out the other. So I had to furiously write notes, and any learning that I did, I had to do after the fact. So I always had to teach myself something, which I think has made me a better teacher too. I can, I feel like I can convey things to people in a way that just about anybody can get it. And for that reason, I wanted to write this book to feel more like a conversation between two people, as if I was out on the range with a friend who wanted me to teach them about shooting. You know, I wanted them to be able to read the book and it feels like I'm just there with them going along through the process.
That's awesome. So it's a book that somebody can pick up and kind of tells you everything you need to know.
And then, I mean, there's definitely things I left out. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going too deep in the weeds. You know, I do have some chapters that have to do with ballistics. And, you know, when it comes down to it, if somebody really wants to learn advanced details in external, terminal, internal ballistics, they should just go buy one of Brian Litz's books.
That's what I was about to say.
Honest, if you want to know that stuff, you just go grab Applied Ballistics, because that's what those books are about, and they're fantastic. I think that they're also very deep for a lot of people, and it's hard. If you want just the basics, you have to dig through to find the basics, and I didn't want to do that. Again, if you want the advanced stuff, that's where you go. I have one chapter in this book that is called Ballistics Simplified, which my first sentence in the chapter is, the chapter name is an idiom. It doesn't make sense because ballistics is complicated as hell. And I wanted to still provide that foundational knowledge so that if somebody wanted to know just like that entry level, what is drag, what is ballistic coefficient, they can grab that information from this book, but they're also not going to go into 30 pages about something that they're going to need a calculator for.
I think
So
that's huge though, because like I know when I first started going to matches and I knew nothing, like people would try and tell me things and I couldn't even understand what they were telling me because I didn't know the basic things that you just went over. Like what's the ballistic coefficient, and oh, I'm supposed to have a kestrel, a what? Like I mean,
right.
the very basics I didn't know to even be able to ask questions. So I think that's great just to have it be a high level. I feel bad for beginners when we're at matches and we're all talking the jargon and the lingo, and they're like sitting there quietly. And I know it's because they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, and they don't want to speak up. So,
Well, you see that deer in the headlights look, and that, I mean, it's so common. I think, you know, the four of us here, it's really easy for us, being that we've been doing this long enough, to take some very simple things for granted. When I'm doing a class and I forget every time how much I take for granted that even the function of a rear bag, properly utilizing a rear bag, is something that all four of us can pick up and just do instinctively without even having to, you know, consider, am I using this right? You don't have to. But I would say, you know, in a lot of the classes that I do, half the students that's a struggle point. That's something that they pick up and like, how the hell do I use this thing? It's like, oh yeah, we have to start here. We have to start somewhere, and everybody starts somewhere, right? It's not intuitive for everybody, and that's okay, because you can make it intuitive with some practice.
I'll never forget back when I was shooting pistol. I was sponsored by Carbon Arms, and Mark called me and said, I want you to do a video on trigger pull. And I was like, did you get the right number? Because, you know, I'm not all that good. But, you know, I mean, I have fun and I'm like mid-pack, but I am not winning anything. I'm not a pro. Don't you want one of your like winners to do it? And he was like, no, I want you to do it because you still think through every trigger pull. And those people don't even think about it anymore, so they sure can't explain it to somebody that's brand new. You know, you're still going through your thought process, with trigger pulls and thinking about, you know, exactly how you're going to do it. It's not second nature. So
Right.
be able to explain it better. So just do it. And I was like, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll do stuff like that where we do like a new shooter clinic after a match. And just like you're saying, there's so many things that you take for granted that I think it's
Mhm.
awesome, one, to have a resource like this, but two, the fundamentals are where you have to start. You can't start on like advanced wind calling in a bowl or like, how do I free recoil this 6mm?
Right.
Like that's rounding the edges. That's after you learn like the basics. Then you figure out how to break the rules once you know
Yeah.
Yep, I'd agree with that. I think one of my favorite new shooters, my match, I have a lot of brand new shooters come out to it. And you have those deer in the headlight ones, but I love the ones that are outspoken. They're just like, wait, you do what?
them.
All right, explain that to me like I'm a 5-year-old. I'm like, you are asking, yes, we will help you so much.
Yes. That's something I've always loved about the shooting community too, is that I think that anytime I'm, of course, going through and teaching class, working with a new shooter or something, they always like, man, I want to go shoot competition. I think that'd be fun. And I said, yeah, you should. You definitely should. And they're like, well, no, I need to learn some stuff first. And no, you don't. I feel like we all say, no, you don't. And they don't really process how much they actually don't have to know. Because there's always, you go to a local match, and I tell people that don't necessarily feel like you have to go to a local match, because you go to a pro series match or something, and you're going to have everybody there is going to be hyper knowledgeable and will be able to help you. But the nice thing about even going to a local or regional match is, a good example is, and I think I've told the story before, you maybe even on this podcast, but I was at a match in Wisconsin, and me and Francis Cologne, I'm sure everybody here knows who Francis Cologne is. We were on the squad together, and we were about halfway through the day, and there was a gentleman there that was obviously his first match. He was using very subpar equipment. I think he probably using a scope he bought on Amazon for $35 that didn't function at all. And he was about ready to throw in the towel. And Francis actually told the match director, he said, hey, I'm done shooting for the day. This guy's going to shoot my rifle. I'm just going to coach him. And that kind of thing happens a lot. And we have such a good community of people that are willing to do that type of thing and just help new shooters, just because we all want more people to come and do it.
I tell people to new shooters, I tell them, like, don't try and buy all your gear up front. Like, whatever you have, go with it, because you're going to buy something and then you're going to go to the match and see what all's out there. And then you're going to go, oh, I wish I had bought this instead. So
Yep.
I say all the time, go, if you absolutely don't have equipment, just go RO and then be like, man, can I test drive that? And
Right.
everybody will let you,
Yeah, even if it's just to see how a match is run, just to go and see what's going on.
Yep. My new favorite thing in my shooter briefs at my match is I warn all the new shooters. I'm like, the most dangerous thing you can do as a new shooter is walk up to the line and say, hey, someone throw me a bag that I can borrow. Because if you say that, the entire squad is going to throw every bag they have at you, because everybody wants to, oh, use my wee bag, use my Armageddon gear. No, try this, no, try that.
Right. Yeah. And taking an 8-pound sandbag to the guts is no fun.
What's really fun is my wee bag mini fortune cookie, the whiskey one. It's filled with Get Light from when I did Mammoth. And my favorite thing to do is chunk it at somebody's head, and they trying to catch it. And then it's like nothing. And they're like, this is like a feather.
Right.
Yeah.
My most
I have
favorite.
a mini, just like yours, Jen. I have a mini that I keep in the truck for hunting season. And it's the exact same thing. You can toss that thing as fast as you want. You couldn't hurt an ant with it.
Yeah.
Yep. So over in the comments, we have a lot of people saying, we got Prentice in there. He's saying, where'd it just go? New shooters are the key to the future of our sport. Also, he wants to know if you remember to pay your light bill, Nick.
I gotta keep it dark and sexy.
Bill said it's the only sport he knows where everybody's willing to lend you equipment just so that they can beat you with it.
Yep.
So we're about at the midpoint of the show. Remember, if you're watching us live on Facebook, ask any questions you may have in the comment section of the video. We'll ask it live on air. Other ways to catch us, you can always check back on the Shooter's Mindset Facebook page. Videos stay up there forever. We usually upload to all the podcast apps the night after the show. And then finally, everything eventually ends up on the Shooter's Mindset YouTube page. So that's a great place to look back for all the past times we've had Nick on here and some other guests as well. So, Nick, so I thought that I ordered the book, but actually I just paid for it now. It's like, why isn't this thing here yet? So I haven't had a chance to read any of it yet. But can you read us like your favorite little excerpt out of the book?
Oh,
Give us a little
man.
teaser.
You know, I know you were going to ask me that, and I don't know if I have a favorite one. There is.
Let us see the cover.
Pretend it's like church and call out the page number as well. For those of us recording.
Yeah, because Corey has his.
Ah,
I'll tell you what. Yeah, Corey, I'm going to ask you, do you have all your pages?
You know, Nick, I don't know if you can see this, but I've highlighted notes, and in the spine here, I've written in, front to back, cover to cover, right? I got this in today. And
Yeah.
I'm just going to go ahead and make a recommendation that I should have bought this earlier.
wait,
Really?
but
Well, I
will you
appreciate
sign
that.
it for us? If we bring it to our next match, will you autograph it?
Of course.
It'll be worth a ton of money.
It might drop in value. I've actually had a few people that have asked me if they could mail it to me so I could sign it, and I was just like, insanely flattering, because I'll be honest with you, I told you this is a bucket list item just to write a book, and the fact that anybody is actually buying it. If I told my wife, and I said, if I sell a couple of copies, I'll be just tickled to death. And the amount of support that I've received is just insane, which I cannot thank everybody enough for everything people are doing. It's just so cool.
I
I'm
mean,
means a
just so glad to tickle you. That's what we
Yeah,
are.
I appreciate that, Corey.
in between you being somebody that's always there for all of us in the sport, and like, you're one of our friends, and you made this book, and then you had this freaking ballin' promo video. Like, how can you not buy something after that video?
Right. Yeah, that that was something. That was actually probably one of the guiding forces to me just saying, Nick, you just got to get this damn thing done. So I can give you the story behind that. A good friend of mine, his name is Johnny Strong, which if you've ever seen Fast and the Furious, Black Hawk Down, you've seen him. And but he just wrote, directed, and starred in his own movie called War Horse 1, which will be in theaters on June 30th. I went down to Texas to see his premiere, and I was just in awe. It is a beautiful film, and it's a war film, right? But it has got such a beautiful message. And me and him were just kind of bullshitting over, months after that. And he called me up one day and said, Nick, would you be willing to come visit me and film a promo video for the movie to kind of help boost it before it goes into theaters? And I said, of course. What do you want me to do? And he said, well, I want to do a book. I want to do a video where we talk about kind of the importance of the Second Amendment, and because he's a true patriot, and that man lives a patriot life, and if you ever met him, you'd figure it out pretty quick. But so we're talking about that, and he had the idea of, well, why don't we build like a custom precision rifle and talk about just in general, the importance of the modern day Minuteman. And I said, that's an awesome thing. I mean, that's part of the reason why I personally wanted to get into precision rifle, because it is such a strong piece of equipment that anybody can learn. And so in talking about that, we kind of decided, okay, let's start this project. And then he asked me, is there anything I can do for the Nick Laufenberg brand? I said, not really. I'm just happy to help you out. And after a while, he's, are you sure there's nothing I can do? And I said, I'll tell you what, I actually am writing a book. And he said, well, what's it on? And I said, marksmanship, precision rifle. He said, you got to be shitting me. So, okay, yeah, it is. So he said, well, why don't we do a co-promotion? So we'll promote your book and promote the movie at the same time. And I was like, that's amazing. Yeah, I'd love to be a part of that. So he said, well, you got to get the damn book done now. So, uh, so I was about a third away done, and in the last third of the year, I got the other 2/3 of the book done. So I had to bust ass, and yeah, I mean, it was basically like working two full-time jobs, but got it done. I'm very happy with the way it turned out, and um, met up with Johnny, and we filmed the video, and like a true professional, I tell you what, I felt like he was promoting the book more than he's promoting the movie. So I mean, that's a good friend. I mean, he really came through for me and did something real special, because that if you're a patriot, you watch that movie and you get chills, and I still get chills every time I watch it.
And what's the name of the movie again?
Or the movie is War Horse 1, which will be again June 30th, will be in theaters. And then I think on it's the 4th of July, it goes on video on demand.
Sweet. I'm gonna have to check that out for sure.
Yeah, definitely go watch a trailer for it. It is awesome. And then of course the promo video that he knocked out, it's just beautiful. I mean, I again get the chills every time I watch it.
Yeah, and so if you're listening to us now or listening to us later, and wondering what the heck this video is we're talking about, we have it over there on the Shooter's Mindset Facebook page. We shared it as soon as Nick put it up, and then it's on Nick's Facebook page as well. If you can figure out how to spell his last name, he's got it all over there too.
Yep.
Ted Hoger in the comments asked, of all the information in your book, what is the number one thing that you think most readers should walk away with?
Pretty early on in the book, I talked about a properly fitted weapon system. And I think that is a huge point to walk away from, because a big hurdle of doing classes where you provide the rifles for people is that the rifle's not fitted for that person. And you run into a tremendous amount of issues from that. If you have a length of pole that is too long, and for some reason I see the length of pole being too long, and I think that's a lot of times people don't actually square up behind their rifle. They kind of cant their body off to the side. And although in some shooting positions you kind of have to do that, I find that if you truly square up behind your gun, your length of pole needs to be a little bit shorter than most people would conventionally think. And so if you have too long of a length of pole, you can't get the proper sight picture. Your eye is behind the eye box, and you get vignetting around your image. So then you're uncomfortable right away. Then if you also have your scope set in the wrong spot, you have a very similar issue. Having an adjustable cheek piece is very helpful. Again, another part of properly fitting a weapon system to you. You can immediately see, though, when somebody has a rifle that they are not accustomed to or is not fitted to them, how uncomfortable they are. And unless you can be comfortable in a shooting position, I mean, yeah, you can still hit a target, but you're just not going to do it as efficiently.
I'll never forget when I first started shooting, and Phil Vallejo was trying to help me. And so he would FaceTime with me because I didn't have anybody here that shot precision to help me. And he's looking at my length of pull and me behind the rifle. And he's like, no, you need to change up. And he made me get square behind the rifle. Well, then I was like, well, now I can't see through my scope. And he's like, well, move your scope, ding dong. I mean, like, it's not that difficult. I'm like, oh. Didn't really think about that. Once I put the scope on, I feel like so many people want to just leave it there and move it.
I mean, I don't particularly enjoy just, ripping a scope off of a rifle. I think Bill just went and watched the trailer. He said, okay, that trailer is badass, with a capital badass.
Yeah, it's absurd. I just absolutely love it.
Yeah, like I watched it once on my cell phone and was like, all right, big screen. There we go.
Yeah, well, the first time I watched it, I have in my office a very wide curved monitor for doing video and photo editing. And I watched it on there. I was like, oh my God. And so I immediately had to, okay, I need to go in my living room and watch it on the bigger screen. It's like, oh, this thing is awesome. I told Johnny, is like, I have two very, very strong concerns about this video. And he's like, oh no, let's hear it. And I said, first of all, I think that it is so deeply patriotic that you might get taken off of Facebook for possibly inciting a revolution. Um, and the second thing is that my book is not going to live up to the quality of this video.
Speaking of your book, you
So-
never read that excerpt.
Well, I'll
I'm
tell you,
hoping
I'm
I
not going to
never
read the
forget.
excerpt, but I will say that at the very beginning, when we're talking about in the introduction, one of the things that I I tell people a lot is that if you really want to be good, it comes with practice, it comes with repetition. And just reading this book is not going to be good enough. You're going to, I would strongly suggest taking classes, going and the best trainers I know are often taking classes from other people too. And I think a lot of that is that uh, the best trainers, the best teachers are students their entire life.
Yep.
If somebody ever tells you that they have mastered their craft, then they've actually given up on learning. I truly believe that. I think that even I might take a class from somebody and know pretty much everything that they're teaching, but I also might hear it from a different perspective. And that different perspective allows me to see things differently too. So even though I might know the general information that they're talking about, just seeing it from somebody else's eyes or how they perceive that piece of information just expands my knowledge more. And it applies to everybody.
Man, I couldn't agree more with that. One of the things you touched on was a whole bunch of stories about kind of competitions. How do you see competition fitting into like a larger group of guns?
Say that again. How do I see it fitting
So,
into a?
yeah, so if you were to look at precision rifle competition or just competition in general, how would
Yeah.
you see that fitting in as like normal gun owners? What's their role of like, do they
Okay.
have one? Is it just to go out and shoot matches?
Right. I think that competition in general is a great way to hone your skills. I mentioned at the beginning of this that I don't see myself as a great competitor. I think that to be a really good competitor, it takes a mental skill set that I don't personally believe I have at this moment. It's something that I personally have to train more just to have that skill set mentally. Um, but I think as a gun owner in general, it's kind of I think it's kind of your duty to understand how that weapon system functions to the best of your ability. And really the best place to hone that skill set and knowledge is in competition. You pick up more when you're faced with situations or put yourself under stress where you're forced to learn something new. And you might accidentally learn something new, like you, Ken Wheeler, the current owner of the Precision Rifle Series, him and Missy, his matches up in Cascade, Wisconsin, they always had this doghouse.
I
And
hate that doghouse.
you remember the doghouse? Well, that doghouse is a son of a bitch to get
What
into
is
certain
that?
positions.
Yes, Steve.
But if you've ever shot that doghouse, you know how creative you have to be. And in no way would I ever have considered those positions unless I had shot that damn doghouse. But I believe because I did, I'm a better shooter for it. And from the mindset of somebody just who wants to be a better shooter in general, not necessarily for competition, but I want to be as efficient with my rifles as I can. I now know that that's a trick I can pull out of the hat when I need to.
Okay.
Did I answer your question? I hope I got to it.
No, I like it. It wasn't what I was thinking, but I think
Okay.
it's important for even just if you're not a competitor, for competitors in general, to always remember that there's something else to learn.
Oh,
And there's
yeah.
someone else, like you had said earlier, that hasn't learned that. And it's kind of our job to pass it on too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's our job to seek out people to join in our community. Um, I always try to encourage anybody who we're doing a training class for. I mean, even if we're just training them on a new optic or something like that, something that might not necessarily be geared towards competition shooting. Once we get through the basics, always at the end we end up doing some fun skill stuff. Shooting off of a barricade, and you just like, look, I can apply this to hunting too. I take this lightweight barricade bag and I can shoot off of a fence post or a cattle gate. And how useful is that? And then they always like, oh man, that's a really cool skill. And so you should come to a competition. You'll learn more.
How many deer
And
blinds have we shot out of?
yeah, yeah,
So one thing that I learn at work is there's always new ways to screw something up. And the easiest way to learn stuff is to fix after you screw something up, or somebody else screws something up and you fix it.
yeah,
And the more chances, the more you shoot, the more you have a chance to screw up, and the more you learn how to fix the screw ups.
yeah.
So any chance you get behind a rifle, whether it be a competition, a training class, anything where you're seriously trying to do something, not just, mag dumping your Bubba AK into a berm, like you're gonna
yeehaw.
you're gonna have a calm boy, calm down. You're definitely gonna learn from it, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with learning more anytime.
I mean, competition taught me not to get your ammo wet.
Yep. It matters.
Competition taught me to dump it in a bucket of water beforehand to make sure it works.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was that had the quote, and I hope I don't butcher it, but it's one of my favorite quotes. I should probably learn it better. Is I didn't go out to learn how to do something. I learned 1,000 ways not to do it. You learn by your mistakes, and you learn way better by your mistakes.
Yeah. Very similar to Nikola Tesla's.
That's actually might be who I'm trying to quote here. What is Nikola Tesla's?
I didn't fail 1,000 times. Sorry, no. I'll
It's,
no.
I think it's the same
no.
quote. I think it's the same quote we're
one.
thinking of. Yeah.
Somebody's gonna have to Google it now and get the.
I'm on it.
Yeah, I want to know what that one is. But it's such a good quote, and it's very true. You can, if you set out, and I think that's why I feel like I can convey things pretty well to, especially to somebody who has no understanding or a basis understanding, is that since I've learned so much of this through trial and error, just on my own time, being a weird recluse, I feel like I've learned so many ways not to do it that I can convey it really well. I think that's probably where my skill set lies. Did you find it?
I did. I have not failed. I found 10,000 ways that won't work.
There you go. Yep.
Speaking
That hurts me.
of redoing or working towards things, what chapter was the hardest for you to write, and did you have to rewrite it? And if so, how many times?
Oh. I think maybe the chapter on drag. Because that chapter, I wrote it, and going through and proofing it and reading it again, it was one of those like, man, I didn't feel like it was over my head. I felt like I was reading it and saying, how is somebody, just because I want to be able to convey it to a newer shooter, not just a mid packer or somebody at an expert or advanced level. I wanted somebody new to it to be able to grasp understanding what I'm saying. And so there was probably 3 times I rewrote that chapter and tried to figure out a way to better describe it in a way that is easy to convey. And so what I ended up doing was actually I used a strange analogy, which involves cotton balls in a fish tank. So essentially what it is you imagine you take a fish tank and you fill it full of cotton balls. And then you place a piece of glass over top of it so that if you add weights to the glass, it pushes down more on the cotton balls. And that's very similar to how air density works. As we increase pressure, it pushes down more on it, and those cotton balls become more densely packed, and that in turn is increasing drag just the same way as air molecules being packed together does. And I use that analogy and then carried it on. And I think the way it's written, I've had a couple of people read it, a couple of people that I find to be more advanced than me say, wow, I really like that analogy. That actually works pretty well. I'm probably going to use that to explain it to people too. So that made me feel pretty good. I do like that one.
That's pretty cool. Do we
I
have another
legit-
question?
I legit can't wait to read it now. Ted asked if you could add more chapters to the book, what would it be about? Or do you feel like afterwards there's any one thing that you're like, oh, I should have?
There was things that in the book that I deleted. The book was longer and I took it out because I thought that maybe I was going too deep into something that I didn't need to go deep into right now. I do actually have intent to someday, well, first of all, this is the first edition. So at some point I'd probably like to go back through and add to and make some adjustments. Kind of, I'm pretty picky. I'm a huge critic. Nobody gets frustrated with how my work is more than I do. So I'm sure I'll find things I want to update in there, and I'll do a second edition and maybe even go back through and redo the photos and the visuals and stuff and do a color hardcover copy. But at some point, what I would like to do is actually dive deeper into the individual chapters and maybe do separate, smaller books on those individual chapters, just expanding deeper.
That's awesome.
Any chance of an audiobook?
I'll have to find somebody better to read it. I'll tell you what, maybe I'll convince Johnny to read it. He has that sultry voice that I don't have.
So I always am really careful. When I started shooting, I was very careful to not take advice from people I didn't really know as a role model. Gina is who roped me into this whole mess in the first place. It cost me a lot of money, but also gained a lot of friends and fun out of it. But I was always really careful. Like, people would tell me things and I would like call her and be like, so is this what needs to be happening? She'd be like, no. or she'd be like, who told you that? Or she'd be like, yeah, you can trust that person. You can trust what they say. So who do you see as good role models or mentors for people getting into the sport?
It's really hard for me. It really is, because there are so many amazing people in this. I mean, even just if you look at the list of people that I sponsor, amazing, amazing people. And it makes it very difficult for me because I feel like if I just called out one person, then I might be discrediting others. So I'm going to default to my typical answer, and it's an answer I've given you before on the show, I think. And it's because the way I met him. So Isaiah Curtis, very good friend of mine. In fact, he was one of my groomsmen. When it comes to people who I feel like just genuinely want to help others, and the man has raw talent. I mean, he goes out there and he just nonchalantly mops the floor with people often, and it's great. But he does it very humbly. He doesn't like social media, partially because he doesn't like to brag when he does well. It's like, Isaiah, it's okay to say, hey, I had a great match this week and look at my trophy. He's like, I don't want to. But I remember at the Vortex Rampage, was it 4 years ago, I think. I remember he won, and by a pretty significant margin. And obviously you win, you get to walk the prize table first. And throughout the match, there was a kid there with his parents, and his parents are ROing, and this kid was just running back and forth, helping Jim see, the match director for the match, everywhere he could, just being the best hardworking gopher he possibly could. And at the end of the match, Isaiah walked up accepted his trophy, and then he pointed the kid out in the crowd and he said, "Hey, buddy, come up here." And the kid walked up to him and he says, "You see that rifle on the table? I want you to go grab that." And so the kid walked over and grabbed the rifle, and it's a beautiful custom rifle. He said, "This is your gun." So I mean, I think he was like 13. And he says, "So I expect you to shoot with it. I expect you to be good with it. And I want to come out here and shoot a match with you." And the kid was just over the moon. And I think it was chambered in 308, which afterwards the dad came up and thanked Isaiah. And I think he said, I'm a little bit concerned that it's going to be a little bit punchy, a little bit, because he was a smaller frame kid. And I was like, "No worries. I'll take it home with me and I'll rechamber it, put a new barrel on it, do it in 223 for him." Didn't charge him anything, just put on a brand new barrel. I mean, the guy's a custom gunsmith. He does amazing work. He's built most of my rifles, and he took it home and he rebarreled it for the kid and gave him a rifle. I mean, it was amazing. But that's just the kind of person he is, and I think there's so many people like him. That's why I feel bad even just bringing him up alone. But our community is full of Isaiah Curtises, which I absolutely love.
Isaiah Curtis, my very first, it was my second gap grind, but first one I had to shoot pro at. My gun, yeah, it crapped out middle like of day one. I'd been like shooting well, and then I was like 0, 0, 1, like awful. And I was just not even having fun. You know when it's like that, you just can't have fun. And he heard that my gun was down, and so he's like, "Meet me in the parking lot at 6:30 in the morning." Because I was like ready to go home, except I had a partner. Otherwise, I wouldn't have stayed. And so I
Thanks,
was
buddy.
like, "You're welcome." So we get there at 6:30, and he's like, "Here you go. This Chamberlain 6XC. Here's your ammo, and here's dope for it." And I was like, "Well, what do I owe you?" He's like, "Just try and get my brass back for me." That's all he cared about. But yeah, I mean, and so for somebody else that's not in this sport, they may think, "Oh, well, I mean, he loaned you a gun, so what?" But like, in order to do that, he brings that to a match every time
Yeah.
somebody needs it. To do that is some skin off his back. It's not just no skin there, because in our sport, ammo is expensive, components are expensive, and it's time that he took to load that ammo, as well as barrel life. Blown
Yeah.
a rifle out for 5 matches, and that barrel, depending on what it is, probably shot out.
Yeah.
So that's a lot, and he didn't want anything back. He was like, "Don't
No.
worry about this, Jennifer. Don't worry about it."
Oh, if he tried to give him something back too, he would absolutely say, "No, no way in hell." He wouldn't take it.
Not at all. So I agree with you. There's a lot out there, and it's hard to narrow it down.
It really is. I mean, if I really sat and thought about it, I could probably easily name 100, but I'm not going to try. There's a lot of great people out there in our community, and again, it's one of the things I love about it. So
Yeah, I think that's the reason why I'm so hooked on this is, like, yeah, it's really cool. We get to shoot stuff really far away, and like, for the gram, we get some of the coolest pictures out there. But like, just going and hanging out with that many people that are that cool, all there to do the same thing and have a good time, and like, it's just like, "Oh, you're here, here's 10 grand, use this for the day."
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's more than my car cost.
right.
But it's just cool having that big of a group of people that are all there to help each other and, don't leave anybody behind.
It's pretty awesome.
So what are your goals for this next year? You'll be starting on another book, shooting a bunch of matches. What you got planned?
Well, I had to take a little time off shooting matches so to get this finished, and with the wedding, and we took like a month-long honeymoon. So it's time for me to jump back into shooting some matches. So I'm going to be doing some of that. I'm sure I'll be doing more photography and maybe going through and reading this book over and over until I find things I want to change, and maybe putting out a second edition at some point. I don't know, but I don't really have any big plans, to be honest with you. Kind of enjoying that.
Living
So,
life.
really quick ones at the end.
Yeah.
Competition or hunting? You only get to pick one for the rest of your life.
Ooh, probably hunting. I think hunting is part of the reason why I like competition. I want to be a more skilled shooter because part of the reason why I wanted to learn more about precision rifle is because early on, as a young hunter, uh, I had some. I used to do archery a lot, and when it came time for me to be able to hunt with archery, I got buck fever so bad I could barely stand. I was shaky, and I wounded a couple of deer, and I kind of told myself, um, I want to be a much more ethical hunter. I want anything I shoot to die very quickly. And I think that I got target panic with a bow so bad that I kind of knew that until I got that cured, it wasn't going to be ethical with a bow. So I had always loved shooting rifles. So I picked up the rifle and decided that, okay, I'm gonna be better with this, and that's kind of how I started teaching myself, learning some basics in ballistics. Taking my 308 that I had just bought because that's what every sniper had. I have to have a 308. It's got to be the best cartridge in the world.
And they're right.
I do enjoy my 308. In fact, I switched my max rifle back to 308. I kind of want to go back to my roots a little bit, but you know, back when I started, I was shooting 300 yards and was thinking, oh my God, this is amazing. I can't believe I can hit that target consistently. And now, I mean, it, it 300 yards, you can almost do with your eyes closed, right? But, pushing that rifle further and further and further. And back, I remember when I first started for Vortex, I think one of the things that got me my job was kind of my demonstration and my knowledge. I was talking with the guy interviewing me, a good friend of mine who still works at Vortex, and he's like, so what's your cartridge of choice? I said, right now it's probably 308. And he said, well, how far have you shot with that? And I said, well, at my parents' house we have a steel gong at 1,350 yards, and we routinely shoot that. And he's like, 1,350 is a long way to 308. And I said, yeah, I shoot a 175 grain Sierra Match King. And he said, why do you choose that bullet? And I said, well, I like the consistency of the bullet, and even with the G1 BC of 505, he's like, all right, your shit, and I think that kind of that spurred me into that direction, and ultimately it was around the idea of wanting to be a more ethical hunter. And same kind of reason why I shoot competition right now is that I want to be, for lack of a better term, a more efficient killer. So if I'm shooting an animal, I don't want it to suffer. I want every animal I shoot to die quickly. And so yeah, I always go back to hunting because I do love hunting. I don't do it enough, but yeah, I do love it.
Okay.
You hunt birds, people's front porches.
We'll talk after the show.
On a slightly related topic, you're known as a connoisseur. What is your favorite hot sauce?
My favorite hot sauce. Oh man. Tell you what, it's gonna sound stupid, but at Vortex, when we do birthday lunches, which is a really cool tradition we have at Vortex every month, the entire company gathers in the atrium, and our CEO will pick a few people to come up and talk about themselves, tell them about who they are, and just so the whole company get to know everybody. It's an awesome thing they do. And if you're picked to do birthday lunch, they give you some, hey, thanks for embarrassing yourself in front of the company. Here's some things to compensate for that. And one of the things that they do now is we have Vortex hot sauce. And the hot sauce that we have, my wife, she works at Vortex in our preschool. And yes, Vortex has a preschool. It's pretty awesome. And so she did the birthday lunch thing, and so she got a care package including hot sauce. That is the best damn hot sauce I've ever had. It's absolutely delicious. Corey, next time I see it, I'll have to have to bring it with me so you can try it because it's fantastic.
Well, I'm on vortexoptics.com.
It's not on there. It is not on there. In fact, even as an employee, I cannot buy it. I have to get it from doing something special like birthday lunch. Yeah, it's a bummer because I want to stock up on it.
You need to find out the secret sauce.
I got to figure that out.
Yeah. I feel like you can water torture somebody up there and find it out.
I'll leave that to you, Jen.
So Mike Bell wants to know, did you consult anyone for the book? And if so, who?
I guess kind of in a way. I more or less wrote it and then bounced it off a couple of people. Kind of said, "Hey, you you're you're very good in this area. You have a good understanding of this area. Read it through and let me know if I really severely mess anything up." And I didn't ask them permission before doing this, so I feel bad bringing up their names without them saying that. Yeah, it's okay, because just in case everybody hates my book, I'd hate for their names to be drug through the mud too, right? Um, but I did. I asked a couple of people who are very knowledgeable in certain areas to verify that. Hey, did I fuck anything up? And I had really good feedback, which is nice. I had a very close friend of mine at work, and I'll throw him out there. His name is Mike. If you shoot
Oh, my.
matches with me,
Mike.
yeah, you remember Mike? Yeah. So he is a hell of a lot more intelligent than me, and he definitely was not a C student in high school like I was. So he was nice enough to read through the entire book and proofread it, just looking for stupid grammar shit that I was screwing up. And and then even after I added a couple of chapters about a week before publishing, I handed him a new proof of the book. I said, "Hey, buddy, I got 2 new chapters in here. I need you to read them. And by the way, I need it proofed in 2 days." So it's like, oh God. But he still came through, great friend. So he was very instrumental in that too. So I got to give him credit for that one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We all love Mike.
He's a good dude.
Good people.
Good dude.
Good
Are there
people.
any more lives?
Believe we are good on the live side.
Well, I guess since Nick's not going to read us an excerpt out of his book, we're going to have to go buy it. So tell everyone where they can find one and the name of it, just to reiterate. Give us the marks, the spiel, the marketing spiel.
There you go. So it is called the Precision Marksman Foundations and Applications. And it is currently available on Amazon. And it is available for extended distribution. So maybe one day it will be in bookstores as well. However, to be honest, I don't know how that works. So Amazon is where you go to get it right now.
That's awesome. And when you go on Amazon to buy it, you can follow Nick. It has a little button you want to follow. I don't know what it does.
I
Yeah.
did that too. I thought I was
Did
like the
you?
smartest person in the world.
If somebody
Yeah, there-
person is following you, it might be me because good. So,
There is an author section on there, which I have not yet filled out because it's like, I've got one book and like 4 people are going to buy it. So I'm not going to worry about filling it out just yet.
Oh,
Maybe
come
one
on.
day if I add to it.
Let's get a profile picture in there at least.
A profile
Mhm.
picture?
Yeah,
Is,
because
is that one right there okay? That's my smolder, as my wife calls it.
I think we'd go with the smolder. I think the beard adds cred points. So like everybody in the community knows who you are, and we're like, yeah, this dude knows his shit. But like if you're just like, Joe Bob from nowhere, and you're like, let's see if this guy knows his stuff. You see the beard, and you're like, this man,
Oh yeah,
this man has the knowledge to teach me.
It's all stored in the beard.
Exactly. I'm trying to get as smart as you.
You'll get there. You just got to push harder in the morning.
Rub olive oil every morning.
Olive oil, yeah.
I'm just going to grow all my hair here instead of on my face.
There you go.
That probably work better for you.
All right. Well, if we are good on lives, then we can wind it down to shout outs. And we will start with Greg.
Oh, for Greg, we have GSL suppressors and Hunter's HD Gold up there. We can't not give a shout out to Nick and Vortex Optics right there for that beautiful Gen 3. PDC Custom, most beautiful rifle chassis known to man. And Fix It Sticks and Board Tech, so you can put these things together and take them apart again and clean them and all that other good stuff.
All right. How about Corey?
And I'm going to give a shout out to Nick. You do a lot behind the scenes to help grow the sport. And I know that when you wrote this book, available now on Amazon, you weren't writing it to make anything. You were doing it to grow the sport. So I want to shout you out. Thank you for doing it.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Nick, what shout outs you got?
I gotta give a big thank you to my friend Johnny Strong and all the hard work you put into that promo video. I cannot say enough. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it. Just to see how amazing of a job he did on that. And also go see his movie, War Horse 1 in theaters on June 30th. An absolutely beautiful film. And if you like war movies and you like that, there's a deep emotional message to it too. And I really want everybody to see that movie. So gotta shout him out too.
That's awesome. And for me, for shout outs, like Corey, who stole my thunder, just want to shout you out and thank you for everything that you do for the sport. Like I meant it earlier when I said you really are kind of the face of Vortex for long range, because you're just out there so much. And then to take your knowledge and try and put pen to paper is a lot of work. I think it's a lot more work than people realize to actually put thoughts on paper that make sense and flow well and put it all together and then do the work to get it published is a lot of work. So kudos to you for that. And I've got a copy on the way, and I'm sure that other people, I'm sure you're going to sell more than 4 because you got 3 sitting right here on the show. So
Well, I bought one too, so just want to make sure it was working. So
well, there you go.
There's my 4. There's my 4. I am good to go.
That's right. You beat your goal already. But really huge thanks to everything that you and Vortex do to help grow the sport and support it. I know that y'all are at most every match, so every big match. So we appreciate that. And I appreciate you coming and spending like 2 hours of your Tuesday night with us. I know you've got a beautiful bride at home that want to go and see also. So thank you for taking the time with us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. And I cannot thank you guys enough just for allowing me to come back on the show for something like this. It's an honor.
Oh, of course. As soon as we saw it, it was a no-brainer doing it. All right. Well, that will be a wrap for episode 408, and we will see everybody next time.
Thanks, guys.